Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah and good day everyone. Welcome to UMT Massive Open Online Course. I am Fatimah Shahman, your lecturer for today's class. Today, I am going to talk about accounting for aquaculture business. What we are going to learn today is more or less the same with what we have learned in the previous topic with regards to accounting for plantation and accounting for animals. The only difference is that this business deals with the aquatic animals and plants. How am I going to do this? Well, we are going to cover few issues in the industry, but let me introduce to you the industry itself. You have to know the definition of aquaculture, and we should know the scope of the accounting standard that deals with the aquaculture. Finally, we are going to learn about the 3 phases of production life cycles of aquatic animals. So the outline for today's presentation will be discussion on scope, classification, and production life cycle of aquatic animals or plants. Okay, let's begin. What is aquaculture? Aquaculture is the culture and husbandry of desirable aquatic animals such as fish, prawns, and aquatic plants such as algae and plankton under certain controlled conditions. Therefore, you can say that any animals or plant that live underwater can be considered under the scope of our discussion today. We should also know that the scope of aquaculture animals that we are discussing today only relates to those that can be harvested in a period of less than 1 year. The second characteristic of aquaculture is that it is crucial for the agripreneurs to control certain conditions for the rearing of aquaculture products. For example, the farmers can control conditions for the water quality, feeding, fertilization, and medication, etc. This ability to control distinguishes aquaculture from other underwater animals or plantations gathered from the wild, such as through hunting or fishing. Therefore, only farm animals such as fish, prawn, or shrimp fall under the scope of discussion today. Others living in uncontrolled conditions, such as in the river or sea, will be excluded. Additionally, the lesson today concentrates on commercialization of aquaculture operations used mainly for food consumption, specifically on the culture of prawns, fishes, and eels. Thus, this scope does not cover any aquaculture underwater creatures for ornamental purposes. Now, let's look at these slides to have an idea on how the classification of aquaculture can be done. There are various ways of classifying aquaculture. This includes, first, classification based on the nature of enclosure, habitat of the creatures. That means, where do they live? They may be in freshwater culture, brackish water culture, or marine culture. Secondly, as shown in picture 2, we can also classify aquaculture based on its production system, whether they are raised in ponds or in cages such as barramundi farming, putting them in the tanks, rafts, or on bottom. It is really interesting to see how these industries are being operated. And finally, we can also classify or categorize aquaculture based on the species cultured. For example, whether they are from the fish type, the prawn type, cockles, mussels, or eels. Next, the production life cycle of aquatic creatures. It is very important for us to know the phases or production cycles of the aquaculture. There are 3 phases of aquaculture. First is the procurement phase, second is the transformation or grow out phase, and the third one is the harvesting and sale phase. Agropreneurs should know each of the phases. Why? Because the accounting treatment for aquatic animals or plants vary depending on the phases of production life cycle. Let us now look in detail what each phase means. Phase 1 relates to the procurement of seed stock. This is the very beginning of the stage where the farmer started buying the seed stock. For example, buying fry, fingerlings, larvae, depending upon species cultured. At this stage, agropreneurs buy other material inputs such as feed, fertilizers, chemicals, medicines, and other farm supplies. The next phase is the transformation or grow out phase. This is the phase where the aquaculture starts to grow. The size of the product gets bigger and involves nurturing the seed stocks to their marketable size. The transformation process also begins with the stocking of the ponds or cages with the fry or fingerlings. At this stage, the stock will be transferred to bigger ponds to stimulate growth. This is the most crucial phase as productivity depends upon good husbandry practices. The inherent risks of breeding aquatic animals are high. For example, if one little fish has been affected by unknown virus in a very large pond, there is high possibility that the whole pond is contaminated. And other fish in the pond might also be affected by the same virus. Therefore, the potential revenues that could be obtained from the pond should be written off in total. In the growing phase, feed costs often constitute the highest proportion of the production costs. Farmers need to spend quite a lot of money for feeding purpose to ensure the aquaculture product grow to their marketable size. Therefore, husbandry practices such as proper water quality control, medication for prevention of diseases and parasites, elimination of predators, maintenance of ponds, cages, and other infrastructures of the culture system is very important in the second phase to ensure good quality of aquaculture product. The last phase, or phase 3, is the harvesting and sales stage. This is the most exciting phases to the business owner because at this stage, we can anticipate the projected revenue to the business. Harvesting periods and frequencies vary depending on the culture system and stocking practices. For example, companies might have several ponds, but not all products in each pond can be sold at the same time. Therefore, the harvesting technique relates to the growing stage. Harvesting tends to be in batches of production when their species reach their marketable size. After the culture being harvested, they are collected as stocks to the business, and that's the end of the production life cycle. That's all from me now. In the next video, we are going to discuss accounting issues in the aquaculture business. So, till we meet again, have a nice day. Thank you.